I'm an only child, I'm a dude. Diapers are really not on my radar at all. Babies are not on my radar.
Before going into the world of real estate, what were some of your expertise or skill set?
Back in high school, I started a nonprofit organization. It was when I was 14. It was a nonprofit. We provided diapers, clothes, and hygiene items to low-income families all across Eastern Washington, and grew that for about 8 years before it was eventually acquired by a larger nonprofit. But I grew that organization primarily using social media, Facebook in 2010.
Yeah.
It's not the same kind of Facebook marketing
Sure.
that we know of today. I moved to like a president role on the board of directors, hired staff, hired an executive director and office managing staff. Once I graduated, I was like, do I go back to Spokane and run this organization, or do I stay in Seattle and do something else? Obviously, nonprofits don't pay super well. I had dedicated my life so far to doing that, and I was like, I would like to stay in Seattle. I would like to do something different for now. Even I was applying for jobs at nonprofits. I was a 22-year-old with 8 years of nonprofit management experience.
Sure.
Most people turned me down for the jobs levels that I was applying for because it was not entry-level jobs that I was looking for.
Were you doing videos at the time, or was it just photos primarily?
I was doing videos.
Dude, come on.
I was our little mini videographer. I rented a camera, edited them myself on, I think, Windows Media Player or whatever.
For you to be 15, 16, kind of thinking about this and already doing some of this stuff, it's awesome, man. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Buyers on Demand podcast. I'm your host, Sean Stewart, and I'm here with a very special guest today, Jesse Sheldon. Jesse, you and I go quite a while back. Jesse's been working with Tiago and I for coming up to probably a year now or so.
Yeah.
So about a year now. So this is going to be an awesome conversation because Jesse and I already have so much knowledge of one another, how we work, our values, our mindset. So for anyone listening, I think you'll get some of the most value from this episode because I can ask you questions, Jesse, that typically I don't know with someone that I have less information on. I can really get more tactical and in depth with you. So this will make for a great episode. And Jesse, you already know me, but for the audience at home listening, if you're new to this podcast is all about exposing marketing secrets. We strongly believe in giving out all the information for free and charging for the implementation. And I always tell the viewers, Jesse, and I think I've told you our story prior to working with you a little bit, but how I got started in this real estate world. First off, my whole family, they're all realtors, mom, dad, sister, aunt, you name it, all the way through. And I was always interested in photography and video. And so about 3 years ago, I started off doing real estate media with Josh, who you've met, and Tiago we met a little bit later down the line, but it started off with Josh and I. And we did that for a while, for a couple of years, and then Josh unfortunately had surgery. He had some health complications that came up, and basically the doctor said, hey, you'll never be able to use a camera again. And so that took us from doing all the physical marketing for realtors to now trying to go, digital. And during that time, that was when we were really aligned with. We were already in deep conversations with Tiago, who you've met and you work with one-on-one now. And Tiago has the background of, at the time, he was leading real estate brokerage. He had managed 300 different real estate ad accounts, and he was in the know for what was working right then and there when it comes to digital marketing. And so we started working with Tiago. And fast forward to today, now we have this podcast where we try to interview as many realtors as possible with the expertise that Tiago has passed on to Josh and I, that I've learned throughout the way, so that we can share as much information as possible. Now, for the viewers listening, that was my kind of 60-second introduction. Jesse, I want to pass the mic to you because I can label you many different ways, but let's have you describe yourself to the audience at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a Seattle area real estate broker where I work on a team that I also manage some of our team operations, but I've been in the industry now for almost coming up on 9 years, but Washington State native, born and raised, and just really love what I do. It's been really cool to work with a partner that's able to grow so much in a really short period of time. We do a good amount of volume. We're like the ReMax's #1 small team in the state of Washington. It's just him, me, and one assistant. So
Jesse, how long have you been in the business? First off, as a real estate agent, and now where you're at today.
See, I got my start at actually joined as his like transaction coordinator, like initially,
Okay.
and that was in 2017. So we're about we're coming up on right around
A decade
9 years.
almost.
But
Yeah.
so I worked with been at the same team the entire time, but started as the transaction coordinator. Didn't do that for very long. Then I was doing total operations management. Then I got my license. That was like year 2. So most of the time I've had my license while in the industry. And then immediately started, working with buyers and sellers. And then we also tried to hire some agents. So I was our sales manager, but I also do all the marketing for our team. I do, some back end bookkeeping and manage our admin staff.
Let's reel it back just a little bit because you kind of alluded to it a little bit. Again, for the audience at home, I have the advantage here since I know Jesse personally. I can ask you a lot of questions in depth here based on what you're saying. So you just mentioned you do some of the marketing as well for the team. I know that you, as you've told me prior, have marketing background prior to becoming a realtor originally. Can you tell us a little bit about your origin story, Jesse? What were you doing before going into the world of real estate, and what were some of your expertise or skill set during that time?
So yeah, I'll take you back even so right before going into real estate, I was in college. I
Okay.
graduated from the University of Washington with a political science degree, super applicable to real estate. um, but even before that, back in high school, I started a nonprofit organization. It was when I was 14. Yeah, I was 14. It was a nonprofit. We provided diapers, clothes, and hygiene items to low-income families all across Eastern Washington. So I started that and grew that for about 8 years before it was eventually acquired by a larger nonprofit. But I grew that organization primarily using social media. And social media, kind of like a grassroots approach because we wasn't very well connected in the Spokane community. It's much smaller than Seattle, but the way we networked was being extremely visible on social media. I mean, this is, Facebook in 2010.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not the same kind of Facebook marketing
Sure.
that we know of today,
Sure.
but that is how we grew it. We were able to become like Spokane's number one, like best nonprofit in Spokane. That was entirely an online social media voting campaign. Um, and I also, through that, I started doing some social media marketing for some small businesses, like a coffee shop down the street. And so I've been doing social media for, yeah, let's see, what would that be? 16 years
How,
in
how
one,
old
in one
how old were you during this time? Sorry to cut you off. I'm just
15, 15,
Jeez, man.
16. Yeah.
That's insane.
So just getting, as it was becoming a thing, um, I even remember in this coffee shop. So this is, yeah, 2011, 2012, QR codes come out for the first time, or like it's starting to gain popularity. I'm like, oh, these are going to be super helpful. These are going to be super effective. Tried putting them in like all of our marketing and linking it to things and signups, and then it just never went anywhere. It took however long before QR codes really became a useful tool in marketing again. But anyway, so fast forward. So in college, was still running this nonprofit from afar across the state, 4-hour drive. I moved to like a president role on the board of directors, hired staff, hired an executive director and office managing staff. We had a warehouse location as well that we operated out of. And from there, once I graduated, I was like, do I go back to Spokane and run this organization, or do I stay in Seattle and do something else? Um, Obviously, nonprofits don't pay super well. I had dedicated my life so far to doing that, and I was like, I would like to stay in Seattle. I would like to do something different for now. Even I was applying for jobs at nonprofits because I was a 22-year-old with 8 years of nonprofit management experience.
Sure.
Most people turned me down for the jobs levels that I was applying for because it was not entry level jobs that I was
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
for. But then I'm going up against people that are much older than I was. So they picked those people over me, which is fine because it led me to where I was. So
Sure.
it's a family friend who ended up introducing me to real estate.
Hmm.
And we were at a family function, just like, summer after graduating. We're carrying up a cooler, it was a really heavy cooler, up a steep hill. He's like, you're a hardworking guy. No one else wanted to help me carry this. You looking for a job? And I said, "Mm, yes, I would like to interview for a job. No income right now is a bummer. Um, and so I went in, interviewed with him and his then cousin partner, and they hired me not quite on the spot, but pretty quickly after that, and I started as an office manager. I'm soon to realize that um, I had more to offer the
Hmm.
team than just doing the back end
Hmm.
transaction management stuff. But it was a great way to learn the business. Most agents don't know their contracts very well, so starting as a transaction coordinator, I had to know all those details.
This is really fascinating because I thought I knew at least more about you than the average, person I'd interview. But what I didn't know is about all this expertise that you have with the nonprofit at 15. Like, what an accomplishment, man. How did you, especially like when you're doing Facebook 2010, 2011, like this is even like prior to Facebook ads even really being a thing. Like this
Yep.
is way, way, way early. What got you into, first off, liking the idea of marketing? Like what sparked your brain to say, okay, I should take photos of this, organization. I should maybe, were you doing videos at the time or was it just photos
I
primarily?
was doing videos
Dude, come on.
that
Like,
I made myself. Taught myself. I was our little mini videographer. We did a
wow.
couple we did a couple like 5Ks, and I remember I rented a camera. This is more in college. This is now like 2014, 2015. But yeah, I was doing videos and things, and um, edited them myself on, I think, Windows Media Player or whatever,
Dude,
editing software was on my computer at the
so
time.
cool.
Put that together, and video didn't have the same traction that it does today. But
Hmm.
I also even remember there's an organization in Seattle called West Side Baby. They invited me over to help with their one of their diaper drives, and I remember thinking, oh, how cool would it be? Like live was just really early, and I'm like, we need to be on live here, and like so we can show people the location we're at, get people to be excited about coming here. And the technology I couldn't quite figure out, or there was, it was a nonprofit. We didn't have money to like buy any
Sure.
software or
Sure.
anything. But I just think that's kind of the way my brain has worked. So you ask, what got me excited about marketing? I don't know. I wanted people to pay attention to what I was doing, and the way to do that is marketing.
I
So
I just, it's such an important question that I ask. It's fascinating because it gives us a glimpse into who you are, and it tells a lot about you just from that story of you're always kind of looking future forward. Like when I was, just so you know, like when I was 15, 16, the only thing I cared about is skateboarding. That's like, when I'm in high school, I still like that's kind of my free time activity that I do. But like I was that kid in class who like I'm just looking at the clock waiting for school to be done so I can go to the skate park. Like I'm not thinking about starting a nonprofit or organization or starting a business or looking into marketing. Like that came way later down the road. So for you to be 15, 16, kind of thinking about this and already doing some of this stuff, it's awesome, man. Like super cool achievement. Also tells a lot about you moving forward. So you mentioned this story. You meet a family friend, and he's like, "Hey, you should, work for me for a little bit." You start off as a transaction coordinator, and you get the desk experience or the behind the admin
Mhm.
experience that most realtors don't, have as much experience of doing. Walk us through that transition now, where you're doing a lot of the admin work, and then at some point you say, you know what, I'm going to try to, maybe you decided I'm going to try to apply my marketing knowledge from when I did the nonprofit to build my own business, or maybe it was an idea that or an opportunity that came about. Tell us a little bit about that transition from like TC
Yeah.
to real agent.
So I used most of my knowledge trying to build up our team brand.
Okay.
It really was only in the last few years that I even was like, I need to do it for my own brand myself.
Sure.
Because as you know, we're partners in this business to a certain extent. So we together work with most of our clients. So um, the transition was, I remember thinking like, do I want to go in? I never thought of myself as a real estate sales guy. Like that's not like I grew up thinking like, yeah, I'm going to be a real estate investor for sure. We can get into that later. But that was always something that was on my mind. But I never thought like I was going to be an agent. That
Right.
was not something that came to my mind. So, but just seeing like having then worked, behind the scenes for, a little less than a year was like, no, I could probably do this. Like I knew at least I can do the fulfillment. Like the
Sure.
negotiation aspect, the services offered. And when I'm participating in 40, 50 transactions a year already in my like first year, getting to see the back end, listening to all the conversations, listening to appointments, you learn a lot really quickly. So it was kind of a launch pad for me and a crash course and had to be an agent. So, and, I'd be lying if I didn't say, the uncapped earning potential of
Mm-hmm.
sales is
Mm-hmm.
obviously appealing. So I
Sure.
was like, let's give this a shot. And that was kind of what got me to like, study, get my license and go from there.
It's interesting. Again, like I'm going back to this origin story example of the nonprofit because I can totally see what you're saying about where like you never envisioned yourself as a real estate sales guy, and I can see this part of you that because you were so used to working, nonprofit organization, like the thought of sales for profit is a complete kind of 180. You know what I mean? Like, especially with a real estate transaction where you're asking someone to make the biggest purchase of their life. So you're going from like, I'm doing this out of, my passion, my heart to now something maybe a little bit different. Obviously, it still has a lot of the same impactful elements to it, and you of course can be passionate about it. But in terms of the monetary values, totally different. So I can see what you're saying when you say I never envisioned myself as a real estate sales guy, and it sounds like trying to use more of the marketing forward techniques to have people kind of walk into you was more of the vision there. What
Yep.
was
I knew I could do it, but was just,
totally?
figuring it out.
Can you walk us through? I always ask people this. I think it's super important. Your first year, you mentioned like you had a huge launching pad, watching 40 to 50 transactions, also helping, of course, in these deals as they come about. Tell us a little bit about that transition. Your first year as a real estate agent, where you go, okay, I think I can do this. I'm seeing this. My partner and I close 50. Let me see if I can do some myself. What was your action plan, your vision, your mindset, your routine? Like, give us that snapshot of that first year.
I would say that for the path that I took is not the traditional one of a first year agent. So I think the mindset is there but I was still even, the strategy that I was creating was for our team.
Mm-hmm.
I built out a whole plan, and budget for our team that then he and I would go execute on like together. So
Mm-hmm.
I had some of the benefit of spending someone else's money at that point, so in terms of like if our marketing budget was not my marketing dollars, it was
Sure.
his marketing dollars that I was able to spend and generate business for us both. So starting out your first year of real estate is scary. It's 100% commission, generally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
unless you find another path.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, especially if you commit to it full time, got no other income coming in unless your spouse is, got a
Mm-hmm.
good income. So it's very scary. I was able to alleviate a lot of that risk that most agents have to go through the path that I took, because I knew I was working with someone that was going to know what they were doing if I didn't. So I don't know if I would turn it into advice for someone else. Is a team is so valuable
There you go.
to join,
Yeah.
um, because that does alleviate some of that risk. Like people that try to start out on their own full time in this, some people it's motivating. If I don't, you only eat what you catch. So they need to go out and do it. But as a second career, I think it's a little bit easier for some people because they already have a network. They already have people that they know. But as a 23-year-old, none of my friends could buy houses,
Sure. Sure.
especially in Seattle.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the case in other parts of this country, but in Seattle, it's really hard to. Most of my friends today still can't afford to buy homes, and we're
Yeah.
9 years later. So,
Sure.
um, but yeah, creating the plan that our team was going to follow, and then kind of executing on that. Had different pillars of business buckets that we wanted, and how we were going to achieve that. The actions that we needed to take to be able to reach that. Even still to this day, most of our business is past clients and referrals. That's how we do things. We do client events. We do. I built a whole loyalty program for our past clients. So that still is where most of our business comes from.
And I think what you said is super valuable about aligning yourself with a good team early on. And what's interesting about your story is you basically had a family friend who wanted you to start off as a TC, and eventually you were able to transition from working maybe for him to working with him. And so for the audience at home, especially for newer agents out there that say, okay, I know I need to get on the right team, but how do I actually get from just working for the team lead to actually working with someone? You were able to rise up those ranks. Can you tell us a little bit about how you did it? Any advice you have for that type of transition?
Yeah, I viewed this is my first job out of college, mind you, and someone gave me some advice shortly after college, and they said, your first job out of college, there's no task that is beneath you. And so I took that to heart when I joined this, and I was like, anything and everything I can do, get my hands on, I'm going to do it. Even if I screw it up,
Mm-hmm.
which I did a few times. But, you figure it out. That's how you
Sure.
move on. So if I'm starting out, I'm wanting to join a team, and I'm taking every possible opportunity that we can. We hired some agents, and I saw them, I would give them lots of different tools, lots of different opportunities, open house opportunities, scripted monthly newsletters to be able to send out to their database, lots of options, and then they wouldn't utilize them. So it's really just about, you got to do it all. And I know it's overwhelming, but you do kind of have to, when you're first starting, you have to commit to it, and you got to do everything until you figure out what works.
Sure.
You got to do it all.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, and you don't know without the right amount of reps, volume, 100%. Love that. You also mentioned something interesting when you were describing, too, that you had the privilege of not only working on someone's behalf in terms of maybe logistically or laborally, if that's a word, but also financially as well. You're able to spend someone's dollars. And you mentioned that you were able to see what marketing channels or what marketing avenues work best on someone's behalf before you went on your own. During that time when you're marketing for the team, what did you find as the number one, number two, maybe number three top marketing channels where you were investing a lot of your time, effort, and money into?
It was, it still is past clients and referrals.
Mm-hmm.
He tried, when I first joined, we were doing Zillow
Mm-hmm.
ads. It's before like Zillow Flex is out now, but original Zillow Premier Agent ads, and it did okay. It paid for itself, but it wasn't, it was kind of a slog of having to, you had to call within
Sure.
20 seconds. And if you didn't
Sure.
have an ISA, they'd call during dinner, and, that's wasted money.
Sure.
So from that, I learned that you got to have the right setup if you're going to take an avenue like that to be able to capitalize on every possible opportunity.
Sure.
But today it's still, I think our best ROI is, we I call it, it's our loyalty program. And
Hmm.
it's a combination of a gifting program from the time that they start working with us till, after closing. So I have, set up gifts, different tier levels based upon their purchase price and whether they're a buyer or a seller. And in our client events, we try to do at least, quarterly client events. We have some exclusive client events for we call it our top 50
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
that are a little bit more expensive, but more unique, smaller groups. And then we have really large all client events, which is, a movie theater that we rent out and have people come to, or, we've done all sorts of different events. In the fall, we'll go to like a corn maze, do like a fire pit rental, and have people come and hang out. And people seem to enjoy that quite a lot. So it's just the more FaceTime you have with your people, the
And
better.
this is so fascinating because, again, especially I'm always trying to frame these questions and thoughts that I have in the lens of a new agent listening, and for a new agent, just really in general, for most people, I would imagine, you kind of think of a transaction, if you will, or a relationship with a buyer and a real estate agent, or a seller and a real estate agent, as a start date and a very definitive end date being the time that they either make the sale of their home or they buy their first home or whatever, or their next home, right? And no one really talks about what do you do after they buy a home or sell a home. And what you're describing is this loyalty program of, hey, like this is all good, obviously to get a deal done, to help someone make their potentially their most impactful transition of their life, but also there's gold in afterwards too. And so my question for you is, how do you get these past clients, right? Like some of these people are just, you help them purchase their first home, I imagine. So there's some really deep emotional relationship there. Some of these people, maybe you've helped them sell a home and transition somewhere else. How do you get these people to come to these client events? Because for many people, they could say the deal is done, like they've already
Right.
accomplished what they wanted. So how do you get them to show up?
Oh, we badger them with texts and emails and phone calls. Uh,
I love it.
no, I mean, it is, you gotta, reach out. And
Sure.
in this industry, there are people that are going to give you referrals and there are people that aren't.
Hmm.
No matter how much they enjoyed the transaction
Hmm.
and how much they like you as an agent, there are just some people that are never going to give you a referral, but they'll come back to you. And then there are other people that this has happened. There are people that will go use another agent after our transaction, but they'll still refer their friends and family to us. People are odd, so you just have to, um, that's why just in general, there's the touch, amount of how many touches are you supposed to be doing to your database. And so, an event for us is at least, 4 to 5 touches,
Hmm.
initial reach out, the, couple follow-ups, a phone call, an email, a text.
Hmm.
Um, and then, you know, uh, follow up from the event saying, hey, thank you everyone that came. Here's some photos of all the fun you missed out on. Hope you can come to the next one, whatever it is. So I think, some of our events only have 10 people that come, but
Hmm.
we're able to have great conversations with those people. And then some of our movie events, we have 110 people that come. So it's more, we're not having as much conversation with people, but
Sure.
these are the conversations where you learn that someone's parent just passed away,
Sure.
or they are getting a divorce, or, this is where you find out those life events that also lead to transactions
Sure.
in casual conversation. Because I know some agents, they hate calling their database.
Hmm.
I hate calling my database,
Hmm.
but I'll call them to invite them to an event. And then we can talk about things in person, or they say, oh, I can't come because Johnny has, a soccer tournament that weekend. And, it's so much easier of a conversation if you have something to call about.
Totally. 100%. And it makes sense why this is such a profitable channel for you. I hate to even say the word profitable because I know that these are deep relationships with these people, but I'll just say the most rewarding
Mhm.
channel that to spend the most of your time on, because these are by and large the hottest leads. What better proof is it that you can help someone make a transition than to say, I already helped you do it in the past, versus them,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So, versus you going to someone and saying, well, look at what I did to so and so. It's like, well, look what I did for you, you know? So I can totally see why a lot of the effort goes to that. And to your point about how many touches and how should I correctly follow up with them, and it makes it easier when you have a reason. I totally can see that as well, because what I see a lot, especially as someone who, when I'm in the market looking for a home to purchase, or if I'm whatever, just opting into people's ads, whatever, just want to see what's going on, I will get bombarded by texts from realtors just saying like, "Hey, just following up," or "Hey, just checking in. Did you make that?" And it's always about one thing, which is, did I make a decision to buy? It's never really more than that. You know, it's very clear cut, focused on just one objective. And I found that throughout my time in sales, as well as with some of the other realtors that we've talked to, as well as helped, the best follow up techniques always come down to having a reason to reach out. Something value based, saying like, hey, I was in the neighborhood and thought of you, or hey, I was at this event and I remember you mentioned that you play basketball, so I did whatever, blah, blah, blah. Versus saying like, again, hey, are you, I just helped you buy a home. Are you looking to buy another one? It's like, what else can you provide to my life? And so what you're describing of like, hey, John, I helped you, whatever, 8 months ago, wanted to check in on how the kids are doing or whatever. It's like there's actually a personal element there that gives you a reason to continue a conversation. And I love what you said. That totally makes a lot of sense to me. In the guise of us exposing the secrets out there, do you have anything that you're willing to share in terms of what events you find to be the most popular for your past clients to attend?
It varies a lot. I mean, honestly, some of the events that we did a long time ago don't work as well now. We're always trying to improve the things that we do. Like we didn't do our fall fun party event this last year. We did something else. We just did like a small paint and sip event, just to our top clients. The know your database is probably like better. I mean, if your database is all young people, then you're probably going to plan a different event than if it's all downsizers and
Sure.
older people. So, and the downsizers events might not be the right thing for you. Maybe it's a different angle. So it's going to be kind of dependent on who your focus is. One thing I'll say, I will answer your question, but is that not every agent is built to do events. Or like there's one of he's not with our company anymore, but he's does as much or maybe more business than us, and he hates doing client events. All he wants to do is focus on getting new business, and he does just as much. So as as you hear any of these, great ideas that come from this podcast, they all work. I will say they all work. You just got to pick one and do it, and find what matches your own personality and how you want to approach getting new business. They all work. So just got to pick one. But if you want to do events, um, I like more like the cadence of like the schedule of trying to do too big, too small
Mm.
events. So like one of our most popular ones is we did a car detail day at our office
Mm.
where we're only able to fit 5 clients in for a day. So it's very expensive for us to do on a per client basis. But they brought their car in and we had a mobile detailer come to our office and they, did an interior, exterior wash, and we got to sit and talk with them for 45 minutes. We had snacks and drinks and things, but we got a lot of one-on-one time with them. And I think, people were very excited for a free opportunity to get their car washed, detailed, not just, ran through a
Sure.
automated system. So had a
Sure.
lot of positive responses from that one for a small, more expensive, but more impactful type of event. And then the movies are, you just got to pick a good movie. If you pick a movie that people want to come see, and you got to do it the opening weekend so they haven't already gotten to see it, people will show up.
That's it's so interesting as you're talking, because I'm like, man, that totally is a marketing channel in itself, where you are basically paying for the highest quality conversations. Like, when you think about where to spend your marketing dollars, like, you can spend it on Facebook or YouTube or flyers, whatever the case is. And especially in your position, Jesse, like, you understand that on these colder platforms, like, it's very much so a numbers game, and there's different ways that you can optimize the quality of the lead based on video and whatever. But at the end of the day, like, these people still need to learn a lot about you, versus you spending maybe a little bit more money in terms of the mobile detail, but that the people that show up are going to be your highest impactful conversations. So it's more of a game of like, okay, I know that my maybe cost per lead in this avenue is going to be extraordinarily high, but I'm going to get the highest, most impactful conversation. It's really interesting that you bring that up. It's one that I think is often overlooked by a lot of people, because I think there might be an argument that could be made for someone, especially when you're saying like not every agent is a event agent, but a lot of people I think just don't understand one enough about marketing, in terms of like, you're going to have to pay some sort of expense to get some quality of lead on the spectrum. But two, there might be an argument to be made of, why am I going to spend all this money to give people a free service just to see how they're doing? Versus what you're saying is like, you're looking at the bigger picture of, even if, let's say, they're not ready to buy or sell a home, I know throughout my long conversation with them that there might be an opportunity that comes up where I now have leverage to reach out to them at a future time about whatever was discussed. So you're almost looking like two steps ahead. You're not expecting that someone's going to meet you and say they're looking to buy it today, but they might say, yeah, we're actually, like you said, we're actually getting a divorce. We're going to be looking at a place in 6 months from now. And now, okay, 6 months, I got this guy, so it's really interesting that you say that. It's kind of eye-opening for me. And I love what you mentioned about like, not every agent is built for events, but what I love even more is what you said about everything works. I've also found that to be true for myself. Like, I've gotten business from my previous jobs, as well as things that I do now, from every avenue, from events, from webinars, from cold calling, from door knocking, from paid ads, and through organic content. And it's just a matter of what fits your personality the best. With all of those in mind, what do you think fits your personality the best today? I know you mentioned events, but is there like maybe one or two others that really fit your personality?
As you know, because we've worked together for almost a year now, I've been really trying to expand my digital presence after spending a lot of time expanding our team's digital presence. And like, I didn't even have my own Zillow page set up until like 6 months ago. So all the clients were just going under like our team, Zillow page. So I didn't set myself up very, very good there. But anyway, now we got it set up and got some new reviews on there. But so digital is going to be, I think that's easiest for me, knowing the skills that I have. I'm comfortable on camera. Hopefully that comes across here. And that I like that you can talk to so many people at once. And you get, so many more eyeballs on you or the property that you're trying to sell. So I do think that is that's the future. That's the way. I've been able to have some great conversations from the ads that we're running, and I think that's a big pillar of the business that I'm wanting to continue to grow and expand. But it all works together. I mean, a multi-channel marketing strategy, it works together, and so that's really the key thing. Is it all flows together with the retargeting, with the you can do SEO, you can have your Google My Business page. It all works together if you do it the right way. So it bolsters you out there as much as you can be.
I completely agree with that. I've definitely noticed that the leverage that you get from the dollars that you put in is so much greater when you have, for example, like you're posting on organic plus running ads, maybe even doing retargeting, but when they're all working in tandem, because there was a while where we were not posting on social media at all. Now I'm posting 2 to 3 times a day. But there was maybe a year or two where we had nothing on our page and we were just running ads, and we were able to get a return on the ads that we were running. But there's always that question of like, people will click on the profile, they'll see that there's nothing there, and so the people are like, is this even legit? And so now, like, the more content you post and the performance of the content, the trust is almost what I'm seeing to be doubled just by people reaching out. If we're running ads and they come to our page and they see that I'm posting a lot, it's like, okay, this guy seems to know what he's doing to some degree. With our podcast, for example, I mean, we're booked out for the next 3 months of podcast guests just because people are seeing that we're actually doing what we are, advertising. So I totally agree with you that everything works in tandem. And I know that for you, you are also someone who is very studious, kind of like myself. You are like learning from everything. Like, you know that everything works. And so you're going to try to kind of put your brain into every single bucket that's out there, constantly look at different strategies that people are doing, talk to people, get on calls with other people that are doing X, Y, and Z. With everything that you've learned about social media marketing so far, what is your kind of synopsis of how to have social media marketing work correctly for you?
Local. Be as local as you can be. It's not trying to be an influencer, locally, but people on the internet generally have pretty low trust, as we've discussed.
Yeah.
But if you position yourself as the local expert when you're the person sharing details about your town, about your city, in an area like Seattle that's huge, a big metropolitan area, it's a little bit harder. I actually think that strategy works well in smaller towns. Like, you can easily become the digital mayor of your town, I think, with your content strategy. And you
Sure.
can be the person that everyone follows for information and, eventually convert that down the road. But I think, local content's performing extremely well right now, but it's hard to do. It takes a lot of time to film, especially if you're actually out selling houses. So
Totally.
it's
And
it's I think trying to incorporate it into this is what I struggle with the most, and I'm really working on, is actually remembering to film just living my life. Especially because the people are most likely to relate to what you're selling is your life, and just living your life, and how in your area, if you have kids, where are you taking your kids? What activities are you going to? And just documenting that is going to be the best way that you can share that information. You will attract people that want your life.
so for anyone listening, for the tactical explanation here, what Jesse, you seem to be referring to is this lifestyle content, which I totally agree with. I see that works incredibly well for a lot of realtors, where if it's actually a really funny story. I was just talking to a realtor last week who, just like a lot of realtors do, they will be interviewed by buyers, especially more sophisticated buyers and sellers. And they will ask questions to see, of course, if you're the right fit for them. And what happened with this lady, she was telling me this on the podcast, is she sits down with a buyer and he's interviewed basically the top producers. He's interviewed kind of more like mid-level, and then he's interviewed some of the people that are a little bit lesser known. And this guy was asking basically the top producer, can you tell me a little bit about this specific neighborhood and what are the things to do around there? Now, the top producer, she was at the point where she had already delegated everything to a team, and she had already like moved out of state and very far removed from the local area. And so she actually didn't know the the local attractions, as well as the realtor that I was talking to the other day, where when they interviewed her, she was like, oh yeah, I actually go to this donut shop every single, Saturday, and I actually know the owner here at the coffee shop, and I know this person here. And so although the top producer had the most social proof, they actually went with the realtor I talked to on the podcast who had way less, just because she actually lived the lifestyle that they were trying to adopt. So I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that. And for the audience listening at home, Jesse, what, if we can get a little bit tactical, what content that you've posted so far have you seen to perform the best for you in terms of maybe views, follows, leads, etc.?
The house tours still. I mean, I just had in the last week one of my videos that, a lot of my videos have not, especially prior to starting to work with you guys, when I was trying to do organic social without a plan, a couple years ago, I thought I had a couple good ideas and maybe got like 3,000 views was like a highlight. And this one last week, this house tour had almost 17,000 views, generated a bunch of new followers. I think two things with that. It was a good hook and it was an aspirational house. It was an expensive house. So I think maybe a combination of those two things. And also people love rage commenting on home prices in the Seattle area. Like, oh, this is ridiculous how expensive this is.
Sure.
And, I'm just like, yeah, feed me. Yes, please.
Yeah.
I don't mind the hate comments about the house or anything like that. Just, yeah, I thrive on the engagement. Please comment.
Now, this is actually a great question or a great topic that you bring up, because this is like, unfortunately, with the times that we're in, with housing prices being as ridiculously high as they are, there is kind of one strategy. Like, you could play into that to your benefit, like what you're describing, because people are all going to say this is way too expensive for what, blah blah blah, or they might say like, oh, this is way too cheap, depending on
Right.
other circumstances. And so I'm curious for you, when we're talking about the home tours, this is kind of our section now that we're like 45 minutes into the episode. I'm going to dive deep, a little bit tactical. Have you found a difference in revealing the price up front, or maybe hiding the price and letting people comment for it? What have you seen to work better, maybe for you and for other people?
I think if you want them to be, if you're going to use the strategy of trying to get engagement on it being a ridiculous price, it's better to give it up front. Because they might not watch the whole video, but they're going to watch the first few seconds. They're immediately going to be like,
They want to judge it. Yep.
oh God, no, I would never pay that much.
Sure.
Also, specifically in this one video on TikTok that I posted, the fact that I said this home is only $925,000 enraged so many people.
Oh, that's good.
So just playing, just like even just that little bit, this home is only $1 million, like set people off. So I think I wasn't even trying to, do that. I was not, I don't, I don't intentionally try to rage bait people. I don't think that's necessarily a good technique
Sure.
unless you more subtle ways, but I don't think that I don't like putting negative energy out in the
As long
world.
as you're not doing anything harmful or negative.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's not my
Yeah.
general approach. And I was like, honestly, legitimately, that home was a steal at $925,000. Like
Sure.
I actually was, I felt that in my soul that I was like, guys, no, this is a deal. You don't
Sure.
understand.
Sure.
This is cheap for this neighborhood. That didn't stop the comments.
Sure.
But
Sure.
on the one that got nearly 17,000 views, I did not reveal the price.
Interesting.
So I don't, I've recently been doing, more actively doing the home tours. So I don't know that I have enough personal data yet on which one is
Sure.
better. I think it all depends on the house. If you're doing aspirational content, like you're doing luxury listings, I think my gut is going to say the price is important to keep.
Sure.
If you're doing ones on the lower end, that's going to attract people to be like, oh, wow, that's only that. I think it's good to include the price. If you're like right in the middle, maybe make people guess. That's just purely what my gut says.
Now, for the viewers listening at home, when they're like, okay, this is great, like, you're able to get more engagement, maybe views, followers, and we're talking about just one video, so I'm not sure, but has that video generated any leads or conversations in your DMs from it? People actually wanting to know more besides just being rage baited, or what does that look like?
No, it definitely generated some conversations.
Okay.
It's the real estate sales cycle is long. So, it's just about trying to keep people engaged,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you don't want to be too pushy. Who likes reaching out, asking a question about a house and then immediately they're like, tell me all about
Yeah.
how much money do you have to spend on a house, and like, how quickly do you want to
You have a,
move?
you have a buyer's agent.
You got
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
commission breath coming off of you
Totally.
as an agent. So,
Sure.
I truly try to believe in nurturing them a little bit more. I have not implemented this yet, but um, you know, Instagram now has the new feature where you can DM people as soon as they follow you.
Hmm.
And I think that will be a great tool as soon as I utilize it to help generate some more conversations off of every follow.
Sure.
Um, so I think there's lots more tools out there that even I could be utilizing to
Sure.
generate more conversations that would lead to more business.
And I'm really curious based on what you were saying about, like the effort that it takes in terms of the content. I'm curious to know a little bit about your production process or maybe pre-production to this home tour that we're talking about, the 17,000 views, where, because you mentioned like it has a good hook and also the price. But when I look at that video, I can tell that there is some intentionality maybe behind how you scripted the content, how you maybe structured it. I'm curious, like, what did that process look like for you in terms of preparing to shoot, also shooting the video?
Yeah, so it was just shot on my phone
Okay.
by myself. And I did buy a DJI mini mic. So the audio quality is really good. Just had it pinned on me. Otherwise, I just used my iPhone to film in a tripod. The shots I came up with kind of through conversation with Tiago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he didn't necessarily say do this, this, and this, but he said, hey, on your next video, you should try this type of filming,
Mm.
which was basically, it starts talking head and then it's like POV walking around, but then I break
The
it up with,
voiceover.
then it's me on camera again from the tripod
Mm.
angle in different parts of the house
Mm.
that interrupt the POV walkthrough. And I think that did pretty well. Just it keeps it by changing it from a voiceover to a person on camera
Mm-hmm.
on a 2-minute long video, just keeps interrupting the view so people don't get bored.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the main thing. I kept trying to include, I did my hook, I got from ChatGPT
Okay.
by prompting it for, I want something that I gave it like the listing details and the photos, and I even like walked it around the house in the video setting in ChatGPT. And I said, okay, give me a hook that's going to create some mystery and, get people to be interested. And I did a trial reel with, I think, 3 or 4 different hooks.
So,
And
okay,
this, yeah,
that was actually exactly what I was going to ask you about with the trial reels, because I see like when I go to your Instagram, you have a couple different variations of similar videos that are like on the last couple that you've posted, and this is something that I've been trying to encourage more agents to use, because I think the number one mistake that I see all the time with realtors filming a home is that they just film for one video. When like you could film the entire home and you could get 20 pieces of content out of it if you just repurpose the content. And so I'm curious to hear a little bit about your trial reel strategy. Like, when you filmed this home, did you know, okay, I'm going to split it up into 4 different videos, so I need to have these different clips? Or did that happen in the editing process? Like, walk us through your mindset there of how you did that.
so that one, so I filmed actually, I think 15 different hooks. And I sent them all to Tiago and I said, pick your top 4 of what ones you think will do the best. And I had my favorites and he had his favorites. I think the one that was most successful was one of my favorites, but it was in his top 4. But, um, and So I tried them all as trial reels. It was just the hook that I tried differently. I think a big thing that we've talked about is just test one thing at a time. So the caption was the same, the rest of the video was the same, but just the first 5 seconds was different. And then this most recent one I just posted a couple days ago, they all actually did pretty similarly. And so I just published all 3 of them, even though the videos are all the same. But it seems like one is getting more likes, one is getting more sends,
Yes.
and one is getting more comments.
Yes.
So, but each of them were kind of performing well in different ways. So I just published them all to my profile. And, if someone watches them, they're going to see 3 different videos, but the algorithm is still sending it out to different people and for different reasons.
This is such a great topic. I could talk about this for another hour because there we go. I was out of focus for a little bit. I test this on my page too. I've been growing pretty quickly the past couple weeks on my personal page, and when I first started at the beginning of the year, I had this strategy that I still implement, but to a minimal degree now. I had this strategy where I wanted to do some top of funnel content was strictly just for views to get to the page. Some content I knew was for the followers, and then the bottom of funnel was for people to DM me. And I still implement that, of course, today with the top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel. But when I was first starting, I used to do a lot of skits, like calling skits. This was literally 3 months ago, where I would do a video of me like cold calling, whatever, a buyer, whatever the case is, acting as a real estate agent. And in January, this is how quickly Instagram is changing. And this is a great topic for agents listening for marketing. In January, I was able to publish the same video and just change just the text hook. So nothing else. I could keep the same visual and same everything and just change the text that says POV, your blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the times I would just change one word. So like at the very beginning, it would be POV, you're a real estate agent who does blah, blah, blah. The other variation would be POV, you're a realtor who does blah, blah, blah. And then the third variation would be POV, you're a new realtor that does blah, 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 blah. I would literally just change one word, and that used to work a lot. And I would see a huge difference. A video would get 1,000 views, a video would get 10,000 views, and a video would get 5,000 views just by changing one word in the text hook. Now, unfortunately, with Instagram, you can't do that. You have to change both a visual component and a text component, which does make it maybe a little bit more complicated, but still it goes to the idea of what you're saying about focusing on just changing one thing. And I think this is such a great topic for a future episode, because I know we're running to the end of our episode here, but for a future episode for agents, like when we're talking about treating a home tour as like a test, as an experiment, where you're experimenting on different variations, it doesn't mean that you post one video of a home tour and then completely change the audio, the text, the visuals, the everything. You just change one thing, which is that first 5 seconds, as you mentioned. I'm seeing that even today, like the last video I posted yesterday, I did trial reel and I just changed the hook, same thing that you did. First video got 500 views, the other video got 5,000, just from changing the hook from literally me standing and saying something to me standing but having a visual right here, and so like the trial reels feature is, I think, in the real estate space, the most underutilized feature on Instagram. But you have to do exactly what Jesse's saying, like only focus on changing one thing at a time. Keep the captions the same, keep the audio the same, keep everything the same except for the first 5 seconds, and you can really start to see, like you're describing, Jesse, what is actually working. You mentioned like you posted the same video 3 times and one gets more shares, one gets more likes, one gets more comments. Like that is really good data for you to see.
Definitely.
Okay, well, if this one's getting more comments, let me see what's going on here, and let's keep making videos like this because I want more people to comment. The ones that are getting likes, maybe I don't want to do the same exact thing that I did with the likes. I don't care about likes. Shares are cool too, but I want people typing. So I
do
love
think
that.
the shares are a huge metric
Totally.
at the moment that the algorithm is utilizing, and it obviously it expands your reach so much more if people
Yes.
are sending it. That I think was the biggest driver of the when that almost had 17,000 is it had hundreds of sends and shares.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think that was a big driver, and it's the algorithm saying, oh, this one, they're sending this. I think they're prioritizing that type. So in
The other
comments and sends,
the other
shares.
thing too, and this is a third metric, but because I totally agree with you about the sends in terms of increasing exposure. What I've noticed, I have a video right now that's performing really well, a huge outlier. Same thing that you're describing with hundreds of shares and whatnot. But I'm actually looking at the saves. And I have on that
Mm-hmm.
video, it has like almost 400 people that have saved the video. And so now I'm using that as saying, this is a valuable piece of content where people are bookmarking this to come back. I'm going to run
Yep.
this as an ad
There you
because
go.
people have deemed this valuable enough to save it. Then I know if I run it as an ad, people are going to find value and they're going to try to reach out. So that's another third metric that I'm also looking at too. But totally, man, I think that's awesome. Anything else that you want to share? We're wrapping up to the end of the episode here, and I think that was a really good way to end it in terms of the content that you're doing here.
Yeah.
So anything that you want to share to the audience about what you got coming up, how to reach you, how to get in contact with you, anything else that you're doing out in the Seattle area?
Jesse Sells Seattle is my handle. So that's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. That's also my website. That's probably the easiest way to find me. Always looking to connect with more agents across the country for back and forth referrals or collaborating on content.
Awesome. Jesse, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you
Thanks, Sean.
for all the hard work with you and Tiago. Thank you for the awesome episode, and we will definitely be doing a follow-up because I think that topic of what you're saying about just testing one thing can be a whole separate episode. So I
We'll
appreciate
hopefully
your
have
time.
more to share then.
Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you tune into the next episode. This is the Buyers Out of Man podcast. I'm your host, Sean Stewart. Thank you and goodbye.